Let's begin our meeting. I'd like to call the annual meeting of the Mount Vernon Towers owners meeting together at 7:07. As we begin the meeting, I'd like to ask the secretary and say, Madam Secretary, was proof given of notice for this meeting?
Yes.
Madam Secretary, is a quorum present either in person or by proxy?
Yes.
And Madam Secretary, please read the order of business.
The order of business at all annual membership meetings shall be as follows. A, sign-in and certification of proxies. B, proof of notice of meeting or waiver of notice. C, reading of minutes of preceding meeting. D, financial reports. F, appointment of inspectors of election. G, election of directors. H, unfinished business.
Madam Secretary, please summarize the previous annual meeting minutes, the 2023 annual meeting minutes.
Okay. You all received the 2023 annual meeting minutes in your packets tonight, so I'm going to give a brief summary. The meeting was called to order on December 11th, 2023 by Brian Greenberg, chairman. Proper proof of notice was given for the meeting and a quorum was present. Minutes from the 2022 annual meeting were approved. Scott Carrier reported on the Chase's repair project. Jerry Bauer reported the Morrison's contract was extended for another year. Janice Adams reported on successful activities. Rita Malone presented a detailed review of the proposed budget. The firm of Fulton and Kozak counted votes for the board positions. Dan Castle was elected to the non-resident position. Tricia Morris and Nancy Rogers were elected as resident owners. There were no nominations from the floor. There was no new business. The meeting was adjourned at 8:20 p.m.
I would like to ask the owners if there is a motion to approve the minutes as summarized. Do I have a motion from the floor? I have a hand back here.
Julie Maisel.
That's Julie Maisel, and a second by Michael McAllen. So we have a second. All those in favor of the minutes as read. But all those opposed? The minutes have passed as read unanimously. Let's go into a financial review now. And Rita, if you would give us that, please. David, pull it out.
No, you do it now.
This is the November meeting. The board needs to approve the November minutes.
The board needs to approve the November minutes. Okay, we have the another approval. This one's for the board only, for the November board meeting minutes. And do we have any corrections? The board, I know we've all read those on the internet. Any corrections or changes? Do I have a motion? Nancy puts a motion. Is there a second? Tricia seconds the motion to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor? Aye, unanimously for the board meeting from November. Thank you.
All righty, well, good evening, everyone, and happy holidays. Welcome to the 2024 Annual Owners Meeting. I'm going to apologize. First off, if my voice starts getting cracky, I've been trying to lose it for about a week, so somebody here must have been praying that I don't have a voice. Few housekeeping rules. Please silence your cell phone, and please hold any questions pertaining to tonight's meeting until the end of the budget presentation. In this presentation, I'll be providing a brief financial overview of 2024. We'll take a look. David, slide 3. There we go. We'll take a look forward at the 2025 budget, as well as a schedule of capital expenditures and how it relates to our reserves. Additionally, we'll address 2 declaration consents later this evening, both of which are very important to our community. Slide 4. Let's dive into our financial overview for 2024. While the year is still ongoing, we have had a pretty positive year. We've got 10 months of actuals and 2 months of forecasting. And based on this, I expect that we will finish approximately 12% favorable to the budget, which is $151,000 in savings. I do want to mention that success is thanks to my department directors who've worked closely with me to focus on effective budget management. I appreciate their dedication. I'm also proud to say that our 3rd year consecutively, our other income sources that comes from administration, maintenance, personal care center, and dining services has hit $1 million. This strong financial performance is crucial for us as it enables us to build our reserves, which are essential for taking on larger projects and preventing ongoing deferred maintenance issues. Speaking of the reserves, on December 1st, we had added $558,000, bringing the balance to $2.7 million. However, in today's executive session, the board voted in favor of my recommendation to transfer an additional $150,000 from the operating account into the reserves. That new balance is $2,936,173. When combined with our operating funds, that gives us a total cash of $3,386,173. I think it's also important to note, while we're talking about the reserves, that in March of 2023, we did make a change in financial firms regarding to the reserves. Immediately we started yielding a good return on our interest income. As of November 30th, 24, we had earned $108,000 in interest income this year. This is certainly a strong position to be in as we approach 2025. At this time, I want to recognize the Finance Committee members. They include Chairman of the Committee, Scott Goins, followed by Tricia Morris, Al Burgess, which I don't know if I see him, Brian Greenberg, I don't know if I see him, Jeff Daniels, Jim Russ, and yours truly. Okay, slide 5. Okay, looking ahead to 2025, the committee's approach to the budget was to remain consistent in maintaining profitability and continue to build the reserves. Since we shifted our strategy, we've maintained a steady course that has proven to be successful and a sustainable formula. I want to highlight the importance of sticking to our strategy. By doing so, we ensure that our HOA dues are adequately covered by our operating cost, our deferred compensation liability, and equally important, our commitment to increasing the minimum monthly reserve deposits. This approach is vital because it allows us to maintain financial stability and plan for the future. Additionally, we are dedicated to being diligent in assessing our expenses and identifying areas where costs can be minimized. By carefully evaluating our spending, we can make informed decisions that not only protect our financial health, but enhance the overall quality of life in the community. This proactive strategy is essential for long-term success. So what is our path going forward in 2025? Slide 6. The board unanimously adopted the Finance Committee's recommendation of an increase of 3.25%. We have a clear expense budget of a little over $5 million, which is an increase of $172,000 over 2024. The budget was developed on a 9-month of actual data and our forecast for the remainder 3 months. In September, the CPI was 2.4%, and although it rose to 2.6% in October and 2.7% in November, We use September as our baseline. So let's break down what the $172,000 increase consists of. In slide 7. Most operating items received a 2.4% increase across the board, accounting for approximately $118,000. Additionally, we contacted Georgia Power, talked to them about their anticipated electricity rate increases. They speculated to be about around 5%, which will lead to an increase of about $25,000. For labor, we analyzed the CPI for our area by sectors such as hospitality, food service, and healthcare, which resulted in a 4.5% overall increase. Additionally, we added $33,000 for increased headcount. Other expenses, including a $9,000 increase in Vertipacks and a reduction in linen cost of $31,000, helped us keep our total overall increases to only $172,000. Now, as I mentioned earlier, our key strategy is ensuring that our HOA dues are adequately covered by our operating cost, deferred compensation liabilities, and a minimum monthly reserve deposit. This allows all other sources of income to be used for capital repairs and improvements. I'm going to say that again. If we make sure that our HOA dues cover our operating cost, our deferred comp liability, and a minimum deposit to the reserves each month, all of our other income sources can go towards our capital repairs and improvements, which essentially is building our reserves. The increase recommended by the Finance Committee and approved by the board will also allow us to increase our minimum monthly reserve deposit from $20,000 to $27,000. For this, it translates to a monthly increase for a studio of $42, a one-bedroom $44, and a two-bedroom $54. Now, one question that I frequently have heard in the last few weeks is, why do we need an increase every year in our HOA? Well, let's look at slide 8. This slide is a little different than the one you received in your annual meeting packet, as this is taking the reserve balance as of 12/31 for each year. It illustrates the consequences our reserves face when we don't appropriately adjust our HOA dues each year. If you look closely, you can see the years where there were little to no increases. Almost immediately the following year, our reserves suffered because we were forced to draw from the reserves to cover the operating cost. Unfortunately, not increasing our HOA dues, at least to cover the CPI each year, directly affected our ability to properly maintain the facility, leading to years of deferred maintenance, a situation we all know we are facing now. However, there's a silver lining. In 2022, you can see we started shifting our approach, and it's been 3 years now that we have covered our HOA, or covered our operating cost exclusively through our HOA dues, and we've been able to build our reserves, which enables us to address these long-standing deferred maintenance issues. My point is simple. We fundamentally changed how we managed our operations and our finances and our mindset from previous years. Now we're in a strong position to move forward and tackle the deferred maintenance items that we've all been facing. This shift ultimately helps us build a better community for all the residents, not only now, but in the future. We can never go back to not increasing our HOA dues yearly if we want to be responsible. Okay, let's move on to the next slide, where we will review some important findings from our first ever reserve study for Mount Vernon Towers. This year we conducted this comprehensive study, and I've broken down the findings for the first 5 years for your review. This analysis also gives us a clear picture of why we need to increase our HOA dues every year. It's a necessity and very important to continue to build our reserves for the issues that you see right here. Now, I know this data can seem a little daunting at first, but we have a solid plan in place. The primary hurdle that we have to get over is in 2025. Once we get past 2025, we'll be well positioned to manage the projects ahead, provided we continue to act responsible with our finances. I'm going to skip over each line item in detail and go straight to the next slide, where we're going to talk about the financial aspects of this. So you'll see for 2025, the total projected cost is approximately $5.7 million. Our other income streams have been averaging around $1 million, like I said, for the last 3 years. We also have a committed reserve deposit of $324,000 for 2025, which is sourced from our HOA dues. After accounting for our total reserves available to spend, we minus our do not touch amount approved by the board of $750,000, we still find ourselves facing a shortfall of nearly $2.2 million for the projects in 2025. Now keep in mind, this is based off the cost from the reserve study and very well could change once we get hard quotes for some of these projects. This scenario simply shows us that if these costs were accurate and we utilized all our available reserves along with our other sources of income, we would still have a shortfall of $2.2 million, and that is an amount that would need to be assessed for. Okay? Now, once we navigate the challenges of 2025, we can look ahead to 2026, where the total project cost is $254,000. I'm optimistic that our other sources of income will continue to be $1 million or more, as I would like them to be. And we should be at least contributing the $324,000 a year to our reserves sourced by our HOA dues. And you can see that at the end of 2026, our reserves could be back up to $1.8 million. Now, I've projected this through 27, 28, 29, and 30. And like I said, if we remain financially responsible, at the end of 30, we have built our reserves back up. And not only would we be able to do the 5 years here, we would be prepared for the next 5 years after that, which is also in the reserve study. Now, I know this information is a little intimidating, as I was immediately thinking, how in the world are we going to manage this? It is doable, and it is possible. Okay? Now, while we're on the list of the 2025 projects here, there's a couple of these projects that were already in kind of motion to do. We started the parking deck project 2 or 3 weeks ago. As of Friday, we had our first big inspection by Walker Consultants, and they passed the 28 post-tension openings, and now they are being repaired. They tested out without any issues, so no new cables will have to be installed. They are currently in the process of opening up 20 more areas, which will be on the underside of the deck, and we had to move 6 cars as of Friday. Currently, we anticipate to have those inspected this Wednesday, and while we still anticipate of having to repair 2 to 3 cables, they have not identified any at this moment. Roof anchors. We signed a contract with Stone Mountain Access to install the roof anchors, and weather permitting, the scanning of the roof will start soon. As the rain last Wednesday kind of halted our schedule, so we're kind of backed up on the start date with them. Moving on to a bigger issue is the chases. If you've been here a while, you've been hearing about it for a while. We've hired Beach Consultant to be the firm to come in and do a mock-up, do a scope of work, do a bid package, vet the contractors, and help us manage the project. Kind of the same order that we did with Walker Consultants when it came to the parking deck. However, recently we've discovered that Beach Consultants' schedule is not very much in line with ours, as by the time they get the mock-up done, the scope of work, and the bid package out, it could be in the middle of the last quarter of 2025 before we'd selected a contractor. So in light of this, the board has approved for me to move forward in asking Walker Consultants to come in and give us a bid to be our firm also for the chases. They're very well qualified and very, very much capable, or else we wouldn't have them on our parking deck. Okay? Now, let's move on to our declaration amendments. Next slide. The first amendment proposes placing a rental cap on the number of leases within our building. The main goal behind limiting the number of rentals is to strike a balance between owner residents and renters. I want to emphasize that this is not intended to be negative towards renters, rental units, or investors. It's about maintaining a balance within our community. To summarize, the board proposes that no more than 1/3 of the total units in the building can be rented at any given time. For the investor-owned units that are currently leased, when the declaration is signed, will be grandfathered in. Additionally, the board also will retain discretion to consider hardship cases if the need arises. The second declaration amendment is a smoke-free initiative. I'm not going to go into the health risk of smoking and secondhand smoke. Everybody knows. Our community is already a smoke-free facility in all common areas. Common areas include any area outside your condo, including outdoors, the courtyard, for instance. So the declaration proposes that this smoke-free facility also extends into the condos. However, if you're an owner at the time this declaration is signed and you're a smoker, you will be grandfathered in, but you still have to adhere to the nuisance policy, which is accountable for odors into the common areas. Now, both of these declarations require 200 owners to consent to this. We currently have enough consent forms to put forth both the leasing cap and to become a smoke-free facility. Yes, we have enough consent forms turned in to put these two declaration amendments forth. However, if you have not sent your consent forms in, you should have received a blank copy when you signed in tonight to get your ballot, and you may still turn them in when we take the ballots up. Okay? So, in conclusion, the final recommendation this evening, next slide, David, is to approve the HOA increase of 3.25%. And of course, our declaration consent 1 is for a cap on the number of leased units, and declaration consent 2 is to become a smoke-free facility community-wide. Any questions on any of the information that we just talked about? Did I see a hand?
Do we have any questions from the floor on Rita's presentation?
Dan has a question.
Please tell us your name
Hang on
and
just a second,
what
and
condo.
he'll get to you on with the microphone.
And we'll get you a microphone.
Thank you, Susan. Yes, my name, is this working? It is working. John Hicks, I own B 1015, and it's a small question, but I wonder, how many rental units are there presently?
As of Friday, we had 110 rental units.
Okay, so a little over then. We want to
Yes.
cut that back. And I support that 100%, even though,
I've been here a little over 11 years, and I've never seen it under 100.
okay. No, I support that, and I agree that it's a good thing, even though, yes, I am renting my condo out. I agree with that. Seems like I had one other question, but it escapes me right now, so I'll turn it back over. Thank you.
Susan, behind you.
Good evening. Dirk Allison. My mother lives in B314. The condo is owned by her revocable trust. I'm the trustee of the trust. My request to the board is, now that it looks like we have a consulting firm change, that sometime in late January, early February, we have one of those high-rise condo meetings with the consulting firm where we can get into some fairly detailed questions that some of those that are engineers and other things would have.
If I understood the question right, because it was kind of soft on my ears, you want to know about the change in consulting firm.
I want the consulting firm to show up so we can talk to them.
Oh, you want to talk to the consulting firm? Okay, that was one of the things we talked about doing once we got a consulting firm who would be more responsive than the one we're currently talking to. So yes, we can do that.
Hello, I'm Jeanette Austin. I would like to make a proposal of a new idea about the chases. Since it's going to be the latter part of next year before the people can actually do the work, why don't we wait until the year 2026 to do the chases and to gain a new estimate, which hopefully will be less because then inflation will have subsided, hopefully. Thank you.
Well, I don't think I've seen inflation go down in the last several years. So,
Yeah, I couldn't even. She spoke pretty softly too.
I'm not even answering that.
Dan Castle, I have some rental units. Rita, you had on one of the charts a consistent $1 million of mystery income, and there's no information in the packet as to where it's coming from. Could you provide a breakdown of that $1 million, and in particular, what % occupancy in the PCC are you assuming in that number?
Well, the $1 million comes from, like I said, administration, maintenance, dining services, the personal care center, and as I'm standing here, I can't give you a breakdown by department. And as far as the personal care center, we look at staying at an occupancy of at least 13 residents in order to continuously maintain the $1 million of other income along with our other departments.
And you still have that chart on the screen. I would like to know, even though it's already passed, how limiting the number of people that can buy our condos enhances our property values. That seems contradictory. If you restrict people from buying the condos, meaning investors can't buy condos anymore, how does that help increase the value of our condos?
Well, I mean, the board can answer that, but in my opinion, it's not my job to increase the value of your condo. My job is to maintain Mount Vernon Towers, maintain the operations in Mount Vernon Towers, and ensure that we have a balance between owner residents and residents versus running the risk of investors overtaking the association and becoming the majority of the association.
I still would like somebody to answer, how does that enhance our property values? That's a mystery to me.
It may not enhance it today or tomorrow, but it does maintain it, because once the investors become majority, the property values are very likely to will continue to go down from there. And we don't want to go to that prefaces. We want to see them going up, and by limiting the number that are available for rent, we also then will be able to build, let's plan on it, to build a waiting list for renters and for purchasers, because this is what we want. We want to build that wait list, because then we can build the value of the condos.
Do we have any condo association, any building anywhere that has realized what you just said?
Go ahead, Nancy. If it's green, that's all.
Okay. I think there are, because in my previous condo, and I would have to do some research because it's not I'm just speaking from my one experience. We specifically, we started out grandfathering leasers, but we were not a senior community. We were just a anyone resident community. We initially grandfathered in owners and people were allowed to lease, but it affected property values, having more renters, and we eventually went to all owner, no rent, which would not be a solution here, but it definitely stabilized the value of the properties.
Case in point, Dan, you mentioned a couple board meetings ago that Claremont Place was selling for $400,000 upwards. They do not allow, they're the closest community to Mount Vernon Towers, and they do not allow rentals whatsoever. No, they do not.
Well, and additionally, 1/3 leasing or rental is huge. Most condos are in the 10% range, maybe 15, maybe 20, most in the 10% range. So this 1/3 is huge.
Hello, my name is Ann Duncan, and my husband and I own A411 through and 413. I wanted to speak to the property values and the effect of having a cap on the number of rental units possible. It is standard for a condominium founding documents to include some type of cap. And if it is not there, then it is difficult to get underwriting to borrow money to buy in that condominium community. And so it limits those people that can purchase the property from us at this point. So I think if anyone would choose to do any research, they would find that it's very advantageous to the owners to have some type of limit. Thank you.
As a real estate broker since 1985.
Hold it like a
Oh,
lollipop.
Nancy Bernstein, B.
Hold it like this. Hold it like this.
B1007. I closed in September of this year, 2024, and as a real estate broker since 1985. I can say that investor units do regrettably diminish the overall property values, and many owner occupants do not want to deal with rental, the problems that come with renters, because they don't have the same ideals about increasing and preserving the property value. Honestly, the renters do not care. But as owners, we do care, and we want our property values to stabilize and increase. And for people trying to get loans, FHA will not loan, and I know we're not looking for FHA buyers. However, FHA will not loan to a property that has the kind of percentage of renters that we have in this community. So as much as I honestly would like to be able to have the option of renting my property in the future, should I so choose, I know that it's not the best thing for the community, and I respect those who do own here as investors. And I respect those who own here as investors who plan to maybe someday live here. But the reality is, if we have so many renters to owners, it absolutely does not increase our property value, and it will diminish our property value because we cannot keep it up that way. That's my opinion as a professional real estate broker for many years. So whatever you decide, we decide. I go with it, but I don't think it's wise to not have a cap on the number of investor owners in a community of this size, or any size, honestly.
Thank
So-
you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mike McClellan. A lot of you still know who I am. I was worked here for 8 years. I am an owner, and I rent my unit out. I want to address two things. On the chases, Rita, I'm a very frugal person, as most of us in this room are at a certain point in our life. Why could we not do half the chases and keep a reserve? Because you never know what's going to come down the pike. Could happen tomorrow. I'm one for always having money in the bank as a reserve and spending almost down to nothing. That concerns me. There's nothing wrong with spreading over 2 years. It's been several years already. I would say do half, do the other half. That's my opinion. The other thing is here, I want to remind a lot of people here, I don't know how many of you folks were here in 2012. Can you show hands if you were here in 2012? Very few people were here in 2012 when I started. I want you to know something, is that they were giving this place away. If it wasn't for the investors who paid the monthly associations, it might have had gone under, had problem. There was a lot of foreclosures, a lot of people giving their units away. If you don't have children, you have to sell it. It could be set on the market. I'm not on the fence on that, but I want to caution you. I had people walk up to me and says, here's my keys to my unit. Take them in 2012. I got my unit for pennies on the dollar. I'm very grateful. And I turned that gratefulness to my tenant. But with that being said, renters are not bad, but in bad times, people with deep pockets pay their bills. Just food for thought. It's my opinion. Thank you.
All right, is that all the questions pertaining to the budget packet at this time?
I understand that the vote on the two amendments is a fait accompli. It's already happened, right?
I can't hear you.
Bring your microphone up.
The vote on the two amendments is a fait accompli. It's already happened.
I still didn't hear him. Yeah, well, it's a consent. It's not a vote on the ballot. It's the consent of owner forms. And yes, we do have enough consent of owner forms already returned in order to sign the declaration amendments this evening.
Okay, so it's a fait accompli.
Yes. Okay, at this time. Oh.
Hey, everybody. My name is Corinne Krinsek, and I am the owner of A609, where my mother's living right now. I just was a little concerned about putting in the 1/3 cap when we're already over 1/3. It seems like the fact that you're setting the cap above the actual reality right now is creating quite a bit of risk for the next marginal unit that comes available. I'm not sure exactly what the solution is, but what you'll end up doing is that if you can't sell that next unit, you're going to be foregoing the condo fees until you can. So I'm wondering if it might be better to phase this in a way such that you don't run up against that risk of not being able to sell the next unit.
As far as what the board has a option to approve exceptions to the 100 should there be circumstances that the board deems are appropriate and necessary for that to happen. So we'll be looking at those on an individual basis if necessary.
Okay, me again. And I would like to say, I also own property up here in East Cobb and in an actual residential neighborhood. And I can vouch for that. When you start getting too many rentals in there, it's not good for property.
Hold your mic up, please.
In general, sorry about that. Renters, as somebody else said here, they don't care like an owner cares. And you really want to have people here that care about the community. I'm going to completely change the subject, though, now. As far as I want to talk about the chases and the fact that this expense is going to be substantially more than we do have in the reserves. I wonder if I can ask how, is this anticipated that it would be like a one-time assessment to make up that difference? Or perhaps would the association take out a loan for the difference that could be paid back over 2 or 3 or 5 years? Or have we gotten that far into it?
We've discussed all those options, and I think that what we're looking at right now is to make a assessment for the single amount, yes.
So all at one time and just be done with it? Is that what I understand?
Well, the assessment would be a one-time assessment, but we are looking, we have a model to perhaps we can look to be able to allow you a 3 to 6 or even 8 month period to pay it versus paying it all at once. Now there will, come a little bit of interest with that as well, but we are looking at being able to offer that as well.
Okay, understood. And I do agree. I think it's best to go ahead and move forward with this. I don't think things are not going to get cheaper as we go forwards. And especially, I think, when it comes to construction, things are not going to be getting cheaper as we go forward. So let's get this done.
Right.
Well, thank you. We got one more in the back there. Let's take this as our final.
So I'm just curious as to who the realtors will be, because the realtors who filled this place with renters actually lived here. And
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I don't know if everybody else can or not.
The realtors who filled this place actually lived here. And it seemed to be as if it were a rotating process so that revenue would continue to come in, not for us, but for them. So do we need new realtors?
Do we need new?
She's saying that it seems that the realtors who lived here filled the building with renters to have a revolving revenue for them. So she's saying, do we need new realtors?
We're not in the real estate business, is right. But we have a card at the front desk when somebody comes in that has 3 names on it with 3 different realtors. And so we just let the person selling the unit decide which realtor they want to deal with, and the person walking in the front door decide which realtor they want to deal with. And we are not in the real estate business. We do not have a real estate license, and we do not intentionally market individual condos. We do, and we will be doing more of it, I think, in the next year, is to market Mount Vernon Towers as a entity and not individual condos. So we'll be doing some more marketing. And I really don't want to get into that discussion right now because we are still in the infant stages, if you will, with putting together a marketing plan. Rita, go for it.
Alrighty. So at this point, I'm going to introduce our inspectors of election, which is Jeff Fulton. You can maybe see him behind the screen. And Carlos, and I know I'm going to butcher your last name, so I'm not going to try it.
Naranjo.
No, it's not it.
Yes, it is. It's Carlos Naranjo.
Naharo is what I would say. Am I right? Naharo? At any rate, they're with Fulton and Kolzak, so they'll be counting the votes tonight. I also want to recognize the nominating committee at this time, which consisted with Nancy Rogers leading a team with Carol Hanner, Lorraine Horner, and Pat Davis. And I will recognize the director nominees for the 2025-2026 year term. We have non-resident member Scott Carrier, and we have resident member Scott Goins. Are there any nominations from the floor? Okay. No nominations from the floor? Okay, we have a motion for nominations to be closed.
Or did they second?
Is there a second from the floor?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor of closing nominations? Opposed?
Yeah.
Nominations closed.
Go ahead.
Rita?
No, go ahead, Nancy.
Nancy?
So now make a, yeah. If there are none, I'll make a motion to appoint.
Motion to elect by acclamation.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody gave me the right words. Make a motion to appoint by acclamation. Elect by, I need to speak clearly. Elect by acclamation. And I need a second.
You have to put some names in.
Oh, Scott Goins and Scott Carrier. And someone has to second. And Diana second.
Second by Diana. Those in favor of election by acclamation? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
No, they can stop.
Well, congratulations, Scott. You've been elected.
Okay, we'll now
All right.
collect the
Thank
ballots
you.
and the
By
consent
acclamation.
forms. Susan, you may now collect the ballots and consent forms.
We still need to collect the ballots because we need the budget aspect of it. So Susan will collect the
Got
ballot.
them all. Okay.
And we will start counting the ballots. We've already counted some of those that have come in, so.
So would you have new ownership business?
Any other new business?
We have a hand up
Hang on.
back there, I
Pat-
understand?
Pat Ben Shiver's trying to ask a question. Well, we talked about that. Next year, we need to flip the room
We'll switch around.
to where we're back there and the tree's right here. Barbara?
Yes, my son, who is a industrial engineer and a CEO of two companies, has criticized Mount Vernon on one particular subject, and that is security. He has witnessed people loitering in front of the building, and when someone uses their car to get in, they quickly sneak in with that person. Also, the side of the building, the door on the side of the building, he has entered it when it has been unlocked. There was no moving van, no car, and nobody inside monitoring anything.
Okay.
And he was most concerned on security. Whenever I talk about the wonderful things about Vernon, he immediately criticizes security.
So she's talking about the security of the building. People being able to piggyback in, meaning that if you open the gate or the door, somebody could be standing there to piggyback in, the security of that.
Door and the side door. And what he suggested was, if you could get a desk and put it at the front door, which I know is probably impossible.
A desk at the front door is not going to do you any good unless you have a desk at every single door.
But the side door also, he has got in so many times when the door was unlocked or open, and there was no moving van, no car, and nobody there monitoring.
Well, the side door is automatically, you can't unlock it. It's automatically locked, so you have to use your key card.
Well,
But
that's what it's supposed to be, but he has entered the building not having to use his card or push the button to say who he was, because the door was unlocked or open.
I don't know how that happened, but I will say that
it has happened several
the security of the
times.
building, you know, we have the gates, we have the door card system, but we are not a prison. We don't have barbed wire around the community to where we can 100% ensure that nobody's getting in or out. There could be someone piggyback in off you when you open the gate or open the door. Just last week, I watched residents in the front let people in that was trying to get in the building instead of buzzing. So we are an independent living facility, and although we try our best to maintain the security of the building, we cannot guarantee you 100% that no one is going to be able to enter this building because,
But
like I
shouldn't the
said,
side door be locked unless there's a moving van there?
there is no way to unlock the side door.
Well, the door has been unlocked and at times open, and nobody was there.
Yeah, I don't know. This is the first I'm hearing about it, but we don't have the ability to unlock the door from the
A
outside.
couple of years ago, I talked about it to someone in administration, and nothing was done. But I'm bringing it up again because that's what he brings up all the
Yeah,
time.
well, we'll check with maintenance on it, but we're doing all that we can to ensure the safety of everyone who lives here. Any other new business?
Dan, Rita, Dan.
I have a motion I'd like to make. We've had a lot of discussion about the value of our condos. And apparently, 200 condos feel that capping the number of leases here, leases and renters, is going to improve the value of our condos. We definitely need improvement to the value of our condos. I know you can't read this in the back, but it's a bar chart for the last 6 years of the average prices that our condos have been selling for. This comes from MLS information, and it shows that our prices have been flat for 4 years at least in this inflationary economy where everything is going up 20 to 30%. By contrast, here's Mount Vernon Village that has realized in the last 3 to 4 years a 30% increase in the value of their condos. And these are all for 1 bedrooms, by the way. The same story is true of 2 bedrooms. And this is a bar chart for Claremont Place that for 1 bedrooms has realized an 80% increase over the last 4 years. So I move that a group of owners investigate why this has occurred and recommend how we can become more competitive. An invitation to join this group would be sent to all owners from the board by the end of this year, and the recommendations will be sent to all the owners within 2 weeks after the group comes up with some recommendations. I hear you that you think leases is the solution. I've heard other people say that the new Chases is going to solve our problem and all of a sudden our prices are going to skyrocket. I don't believe it. So I would welcome a bunch of people to join me and 2 or 3 others that have already decided they would like to do this. Is there a second for this motion?
I'll second it.
Hello. I have a question. I recall walking through this building, particularly 10 and, little stories up, and there are extremely a lot of units that are just vacant. I don't know if they're vacant because they're in probate court. I don't know if they're vacant because of whatever reason, but there are a lot of units here that are vacant.
There's a number of units that are vacant that wish to remain vacant. They pay their HOA fees every month, and they do not wish to sell or lease the unit. The amount of units available to show at any given time is usually between 3 and 5 if we're lucky.
There's 8 today. There's 8 that are listed for sale today, 1 and 2 bedrooms. And I've heard today that there's a couple more that are going to be listed. So
What?
it has been moved and seconded. Is there?
Yeah, he did. He seconded it in the back.
There's,
Call for discussion.
Who seconded
Yeah.
the motion?
is there any discussion on this motion?
Michael seconded it.
I have a question. Is, as an owner-occupant,
Pull the mic up, please.
as an owner-occupant, is our goal to have quality of life or increase in value? I prefer quality of life, and I believe, based on just my experience in real estate, if we have a good quality of life, the prices will continue to go up. I could have bought a condo here, a 1-bedroom in 2016 for $50,000. In September, that condo cost me $140,000, and it was basic original. So what do we want? I prefer quality of life, and I believe that if we have a good quality of life, the values will come. So that's my opinion, and as for whatever it's worth.
Thank you. We have the motion on the floor. Is there any other comments? Let's vote. What? Oh, we got a comment here? Okay. Thank you.
My name is Jim Russ, B914, and I know the...
Hold the mic up, Jim.
Is that better?
That's good.
Okay. Jim Russ, B914, and it is normal for the board of directors to have increase in property values as an objective, and I think this board does have that objective. Forming a group of owners that are interested in increasing property values doesn't seem to be against that thing. That's my opinion, and that's all I got to say.
Thank you. With no other comments, those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? Motion fails. Thank you.
The counting of the voting is complete. We had a total of 220 votes by either ballot or proxy. We had 189 for the budget, 22 against, 3 no votes, and 6 abstain. So the recommendation of the increase of 3.25% will move forward for 2025.
It goes forward. And the 2 amendments also passed. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Is there a second to adjourn the meeting? Meeting is adjourned at 8:04.